Hi, everyone, and welcome to A Gem of a Secret podcast. My name is Donatella My Secrets.
And my name is Coco Jem Holiday.
How you doing tonight, Coco?
What are you doing right now, girl?
Oh my gosh, we were just talking about before we hopped on to record how there are so many quotable moments from that episode, and we have not been seeing as many memes as we would have liked to.
I know. Drag Race has had so many amazing moments this season, and listen to our bonus episodes to catch up on what we're talking about, because it's going to be an inside joke for all of our dedicated listeners.
Yeah, and for some context, though, what are you doing right now, girl, is what Joey J said while the whole altercation was going down in Untucked. So. Yeah.
So go ahead and watch that.
Yeah, watch it.
We'll wait. You can press pause.
And then we're just going to fill our episodes from here on out with quotes from that episode. I said what I said.
I said what I said. Oh, gosh. I love that show.
Oh, gosh.
So just a side note, though. So one of my friends today posted this meme online that said, so RuPaul always says at the end of every episode, remember, if you can't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love somebody else? Can I get an amen? And somebody had posted online, stop telling people that they need to love themselves before other people can love them. And one of my friends was like, yeah, RuPaul, like, this is why you suck. And they were like, F RuPaul for doing this. And I was like, I know you don't watch Drag Race because you misquoted her. RuPaul never says you don't deserve love if you don't love yourself. Yeah. She said it's difficult for you to love someone else
if you don't love
yourself. And like, I actually kind of agree with that methodology.
I agree with that too. I really agree with that.
Yeah, I do too. Because this episode we're going to be talking about spirituality.
We are.
But before we get into that, let me just finish. No, it's true. Because when I first got with my now husband, I didn't love myself. I was going through a really messy time in my life, and somebody still loved me, even though I didn't really love myself. And I didn't have the capacity to show them the love that they deserved because I wasn't in love with who I was at the time. Yeah. And so I really do agree with it. I think it's really difficult for you to love someone else.
I agree too. I think it's been, I mean, even for me, like on my recent journey, like I found that it's a lot easier to give myself when I've celebrated myself rather than constantly been a critic for myself. Yeah. It's making it to where like I feel like I'm becoming like a more complete, full person by loving myself. So then I could just it could be even that much better for when I do find someone that wants to share me with me.
I mean, literally, actually.
Yeah.
But before we continue, Donna, what are you wearing this evening?
Oh, since we're talking about spirituality, I'm just like full on drag queen Jesus right now. Like, think what Trixie did during her season with the bearded drag, but better. Like, I have my nails are painted, and by nails I mean the ones through the center of my hands.
Oh, fair. Wow. Yeah, gosh, that's dedication to the craft.
And also offensive. Sorry, people. I love Jesus. Jesus was rad. What about you, Coco?
Well, I'm wearing a black dress that just has the word coexist on it, but I decided to do a bald cap look because I'm like really going for there, and didn't paint on any eyebrows and or any makeup. It's just a dress that says coexist.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Was the bald look and the no eyebrows supposed to be like alien-esque kind of?
Kinda. I was just like, I started to beat my eye, and then I was like, this looks awful, so I wiped it off, and then I like shaved half my hair because like I was going through a breakup in my brain with my makeup. I was like, I'm done with you. And you have to shave your head.
I've gone through breakups with many different forms of my makeup for sure. Oh my gosh, it's evolution for you. No, that's it looks great. We both look very radical and spiritual and groovy tonight.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I've been wanting to do this episode for a really long time because I am kind of a hippie.
Yes.
And I think that it's important to kind of like talk about this, especially as queer people. I think spirituality when I was younger, especially when I was in my early 20s / late teens and I had just come out, I was very angry about religion and spirituality as a whole. Like really, I was like, I just don't believe in anything. Like it burned me so much, and it told me so much how awful and wrong and how much of an abomination I was that I was like, it's just not for me. So like I was like, when I was in college, I would say I was like agnostic slash atheist, like mostly I was so angry that I was listening to like atheist music, like Dear God by XTC.
Oh my.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
like
went down that
I was
hole.
I was mad. I was extremely mad. So it hasn't really been until recently though that I've kind of dived into what I believe in spiritually and what I believe is, exists beyond this realm.
Yeah, and I have a similar uh, upbringing in that regard. So when I started understanding that I was not the same as every member of my family, meaning being queer and my gender identity, I recognized. I mean, like in our coming out episodes, which I want to reiterate, but go back and watch that. I did say when I first told my mom about my sexual orientation, she says it's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve,
Mm-hmm.
which is the dumbest line. Don't ever say that to your children. And
Yeah.
I know my mom listens to that, and I will tell her that's a really terrible thing she said. But I mean, we're good now.
Yeah.
But go back and listen to that episode. But the thing I wanted to bring up was actually when I proposed to my ex-husband, we had these Christian friends,
Yeah.
and we hung out with them all the time, and we always had so much fun. And we actually had this moment where uh, I wanted them to come to the wedding, and they like sat me down like in this, like we went to lunch one day, and they just sat me down, and they're like, so we have like some really intense reservations about like possibly coming to your wedding. And then I remember like after that I did a lot of soul searching, and I actually just uninvited them. Like I told them, I was like, I uninvited you because I just knew that this was just going to be such a thing. And actually from that point we did kind of stop hanging out. I mean, it's just the reality of the situation. And to go along with Donna's college story, in college I actually started taking Mormon missionary lessons actually for a
Really?
very long
I did
time.
not know this.
Yeah.
I did not know this about you at all.
Hmm.
What?
Yeah, so in Grand Junction, Colorado, like because it's insanely close to Utah, there's a lot of Mormon missionaries. There's actually a Mormon church that actually was like right next to the college.
Yeah.
Um, and I remember, uh, so I, my friend Lisa was going through the lessons at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and I would sometimes show up to like watch movies or like hang out with them or whatever. And then I was like, maybe this could be a good thing for me. So they wrote me, and actually they more so convinced me, and this is like a salesperson kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I did the lessons for roughly like 4 months, something like that.
Damn.
Yeah. And
The title of the episode, Coco trained to be a Mormon missionary. I had no idea about this. This is crazy. I didn't
Yeah.
know anything about this. And we've known each other for 8 years now.
Yeah, well, because so here's the thing. Like to go along with Donna's story, still,
Mm-hmm.
I was really lost.
Yeah.
Um, I used to always say this, and I actually still agree with this. I don't look to religion to know what happens after I'm gone.
Mm.
I never have. I never needed that answer. Like I'm fearful of death because I don't
Mm.
know what happens,
Mm-hmm.
but religion did not give me the comfort and satisfaction of like the comfort and satisfaction of just like knowing what's going to happen. That wasn't it for me.
I think the more spiritual I've gotten, it has given me more comfort.
Hmm.
I think I used to be much more afraid of death compared to where I'm at now. I think it's beautiful how mortal we are and how temporary this experience is. And I think that we've had multiple experiences like this one, maybe in other realms of existence. But yeah, we're meant to be, kind of on this plane to learn a lesson. And I think obviously I feel like the energy never really like goes away. So that's given me some comfort in that. And that's just for me personally. Like I feel like I have a good understanding of what happens when we're gone, but not
Hmm.
not a clear one because obviously I
Right.
haven't experienced it.
Right. No, that makes sense. I like to think this is stupid, by the way. I
Hmm.
watched the entire series of The Good Place, and I have to say I kind of like how they explained death
Mm,
a little bit. Like, just you just become cosmic dust,
yeah,
and you're just a part of the universe at that
part of
point.
everything.
And I thought that was kind of interesting. But
Hmm.
for spirituality, for me, it actually did change once I found a happy and loving relationship.
Yeah.
So now I don't still need religion or spirituality to let me know what happens, but I do get sad part of like if you listen to my anxious attachments episodes,
Yeah.
about my partner dying.
Yeah.
And I would like, if there is some sort of afterlife, I would like to somehow find him again
Would you
in
say
some
that's like your
capacity.
biggest fear?
Yeah, it is. My biggest fear is losing Adam
Yeah.
in any capacity, actually.
Yeah.
Breaking up, death, like however we would lose each other. And that does make me fearful.
Yeah.
And but still, like, the only reason I would want an afterlife is to somehow find him again
Mm-hmm.
in some capacity. And if it was one of those things where you get to do it over and some sense of reincarnation, I would hope to find him even earlier.
That's so beautiful. Honestly, okay, so I've told you this before,
Mm-hmm.
but it reminds me a lot of it reminds me of a Kesha song. It's this song called "Finding You," and I want it to be my wedding song. But it's basically about like finding that person that you feel like you've had this like soul connection with in past lives, and how you'll keep finding them forever in all different lifetimes. And it's so pretty. It's so, it's a beautiful concept, and I think that's possible, and I think that is something that does happen. I think that a lot of the people that we are around in this lifetime, there's no coincidence that they are with us, because we have some sort of history in other lifetimes.
Absolutely. And I got into this. So to go on that point too,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I think about the song "Never Love Again" from "A
Mm.
Star Is Born."
Mm-hmm.
Like, listen to that song, listeners; it's delicious.
Yeah.
But that speaks to how I feel about that. Like, it's just so much of an impactful soulmate that you just don't want to feel those things for anyone else again.
Yeah.
Because this person gave you all those things in the way that you needed.
Yeah.
And so this is it's funny. I'm talking more about love than spirituality, but the
Yeah.
spirituality part plays in.
It does. Well, love and spirituality, I think they're kind of synonymous. It's all the same thing. Yeah. Keep going. I'm gonna pull up a Ram Dass thing that kind of has to do with that. So
Oh,
one
sure.
second.
Yeah, no. And so another story though, when
Mm-hmm.
I had a long conversation about religion and spirituality with a friend of our roommates. His name was Forrest at the time.
Mm.
And so I guess the funny thing about when I think about spirituality, yeah, this is probably why these stories keep turning out this way. When I think about spirituality and religion, I do it in the way that other people have held their spirituality and religion and how it's affected my life.
Yeah.
Like and I'm not talking about like Westboro Baptist, but I mean that's a good point to bring up in an episode like this.
Mm-hmm.
But it's even somebody who's spiritual and what that meant for me. Like sometimes when somebody was too spiritual, it would hinder growth sometimes.
I get that completely, because I know what it's like to grow up around family members that are too spiritual too. Like
Yeah.
having that. I mean, and that's, I guess that's more so religious, but I think sometimes they go hand in hand, kind of.
Yeah.
Not all the time. I think that I think spirituality is more about a relationship with your personal beliefs of what happens after, or who the greater power is or what it is, while religion is kind of a bit more. Like there's a lot of dogma behind religion. There's a lot
Yeah.
of like
And I
it's
feel like there's rules. And I know they would
Mhm.
not say rules, they say guidebooks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Guidebooks.
Like guides, yeah. But I feel like it's just religion is more aggressive, because it's like well, this is how you have to believe, and the reason why I feel it's aggressive is because it's, persecuted people like you and me for a long time.
Yeah.
And I grew up Pentecostal.
Mm-hmm.
Was there kind of a label to what you grew up believing, or?
No, because my mom was incredibly. I think she identifies as a Christian, but like we never went to church. My aunts and cousins did, but I never did. Like my sister is insanely religious, and so is my dad.
Mm-hmm.
Very God fearing individuals. And then my mentor in life, who was my ex boss at my last job before we moved here, was also an incredibly God fearing woman as well. Like so, people in my life who were insanely religious have guided me into the person that I've become. And so I don't really knock religion unless religion knocks me. Oh, that's a cool.
I like that. Yeah, I feel like religion has knocked me for a while. So I don't know. I guess I could kind of explain why I had so many like negative feelings about it, and it's mostly because like it was kind of weaponized against me,
Yeah.
you know.
Oh yeah.
And I had always felt a little bit off when I was growing up Pentecostal in my grandmother's church because my parents worked full time and my grandma watched me and my sister a lot of the time during the week. And that meant that we had to attend this very archaic Pentecostal church with her. So I knew what it was like, even if you were just a little bit different. You know, it was unspoken if you were queer. Like, that was just not allowed. So no one even
Sure.
talked about it. You know, like, it just was not talked about. So much so that I had like an uncle that, you know, had a family but had a secret, you know, gay life. And yeah, it was,
What?
yeah, in this church, like, I had a great uncle that, yeah, everyone knew it. It was like, it was the best kept secret, kind of, that no one just talked about it because it was so uncomfortable.
Wow. Wow.
But yeah, and when we did, it was only negative things. When it was talked about, it was, you know, Will and Grace would come on TV and you know, it was anger immediately from people in my family.
Well, and it sucks for queer people because we don't. Gosh, do you know how awful being queer is when you are discovering who you are?
Oh my
When
God.
everything around you is like built on these preconceived notions of TV shows and what your religion says and all these other things. And like, so it's like, how would we ever be able to find religion
Yeah.
or spirituality when things are telling us at a very young age that we're different and sometimes wrong?
Yeah.
It's just-
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely it's gonna be a process because we don't feel comfortable in it. You know, the
Yeah.
churches really don't accept us. I mean, even in those mega churches, the ones that are supposed to be a little bit more progressive, like, there's still a sense, like, if you're queer, that you are living in sin. It's not affirming and welcoming for you to be there. And yeah, it's rough.
It does remind me, our friend Ray, who passed away, I believe last year or the year before, he was a pastor in Grand Junction, and then he moved to Portland, and we hung out with him a couple of times, and then he passed away. And he wasn't very old. He actually died very young, and it's really
Yeah.
sad, actually.
It is.
But I actually, in Grand Junction, I sat down with him, and I said, how do you navigate people not liking the position you're in and you being, like, you know, homosexual? And and he basically told me, he said there are challenges. It's basically, he didn't lie.
Yeah.
He's like, my church is like, we build inclusion and like have pride and celebrate these events and do these positive things. He's like, I'm trying to build that as a community. And he's like, but I do have people who will knock at it and like, and try to chip away at me. And like, he's like, but my relationship with God is secure. And like,
Yeah.
and I really admired that.
And I think it's also incredibly important too with like Christianity to realize that a lot of the like homophobia that's built into Christianity is very recent. You know, a lot of the translations from the original text don't mention like consenting male homosexuals as being the abominations. They're talking about pedophilia in a lot of the cases.
Absolutely.
And they're talking about things that just, there wasn't a word for basically how we've progressed as a society today. So there wasn't really a way for the reason why it was condemned as much as it was is because basically Western culture. It was,
Right.
you know, it was made that way. So
But that reminds me, Donna,
mhm.
I forgot to ask you, how are you doing this evening?
Oh, Coco, I will let you know after this brief commercial break. Do you wear t-shirts? Do you wear a face mask?
I sure as hell hope so.
Do you put on your silly little t-shirt and your silly little face mask and wish you had something a little more out there?
Yes.
Even something, dare I say, matching?
Girl, yes, duh.
Then it looks like HunterDrips.com is exactly what you need. At HunterDrips.com, socially relevant merch and apparel is up for sale. That's never for profit. 50 to 100% of every purchase is donated.
I hear they carry matching shirts and masks with designs that say cute little slogans like defund the police, Black Lives Matter, and it goes over your nose. And even shirts and hats with your own pronouns on them. You know, things that are important.
Oh, so you mean important. And almost all of it is donated?
Yes, donated. And guess what?
What? It's size inclusive too?
Yes, up to 5XL. Why just make clothes for skinny people? It's all made by Queer Artist Girl. The creator of HunterDrips.com is trans, fat, lesbian, and the site also includes merch from other queer artists, including gay Portland rapper Tono.
Listeners, head on over to hunterdrips.com and use the code SECRET for 15% off your purchase today.
That's SECRET for 15% off your purchase at hunterdrips.com.
It's a podcast with Coco and Donatella podcast. Tune into What They Tell You podcast with Coco and Donatella podcast.
You know, Coco, I am feeling very conscious, very, just woke,
Hippie.
Yeah. I wanted to come back from the break with what it was that I was trying to find, that Ram Dass thing, that when you said love is kind of everything, it is kind of spirituality. Well, this is from the book Be Here Now, that I'm such a fucking hippie. I hate myself sometimes. Okay, so this is from the book. It goes: consciousness equals energy equals love equals awareness equals light equals wisdom equals beauty equals truth equals purity. It's all the same trip. It's all the same. Any trip you want to take leads to the same place.
Ooh.
So I don't know. I think that, I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand with what we were saying with, we all just kind of become the stardust and kind of become one
Right.
in the end. It's all the same thing. It's all the same trip. And I think it's important to recognize too that like humanity is like a collective, and together we are much more powerful than we are divided. And a lot of what it takes to understand one another comes from taking time to meditate and kind of understand yourself and understand what this experience is.
Wow. I have to unpack a lot of that. It's weird, like how we have to do this on this podcast sometimes.
Right.
It's like I need to think about that.
I need some time.
So I wanted to mention that in this half of the show, I wanted to talk about my feelings about spirituality versus others. And the funny thing is, I have to start with spirituality and somebody else. So with my ex-husband, they were very witchy. Is the best way to describe it. And they practiced certain different magics, and that was their journey. And I really never, I didn't feel like any kind of way about that. Like, I do believe that religion and spirituality is someone's own personal journey. Like their paganism is their own personal journey. And so for me, I never really got caught up in, it's funny. I think about the concept of like stop and smell the roses. Like when I sit out in nature, like, cause we go on these hiking adventures a lot. When I sit out in nature, I don't look out at the water or the trees and feel something deeper. It doesn't actually, it's healthy for my soul, but it's mainly because I'm exercising and I'm outside. But some people were like, it feeds their soul. It's part of their spirituality. It's part of their humanity. And that's never really resonated with me. I think I really do find a lot more spirituality in the concepts of love than I do anything else.
Like human interactions and like relationships.
Because like the meaning of life for me is the fact that people need people. By the way, I got this from Girl Meets World. I'm not joking. That's where it came from. And I never put it into words, but that's what I
People
believe.
need people.
Yeah, people need people. And there's many meanings of life, which is something I also believe. And I know that the connections that we make to the universe are going to be so different from person to person to person because people don't the struggle. A lot of people turn to spirituality and religion because of some sort of struggle. And I've always believed in pushing through my struggles myself.
Yeah.
Emotional and physical struggles myself. Never looking for outside factors to help me through those. Not because I'm not open to it. It's just how I've operated. I think that if I got into an unbearable situation, that I might probably turn to religion, as we most do. But I will say the one thing that I wanted to say is this. Part of the Mormon lessons are praying to God for an answer.
Yeah.
Is what you do. You pray, you And it's like it's a phrase, and I can't remember. It's just been a very long time. But it's like you pray to God for an answer, and then you will get one.
Yeah.
And then I did that several times, and I did not get one. so
Yeah.
so for me, that meant it wasn't real.
On a sad note, when when I realized around the age of 12 that I had an attraction towards males and not towards females as much or really at all,
Hmm.
I would try to pray the gay away like every night. Like
Oh, I didn't know that.
especially when I was in middle school, I would like lay up staring at my ceiling trying to pray this out of me and cry, like just bawl, like trying, like hoping and wishing that I like it would leave and that it wouldn't be a part of me anymore.
Gosh,
And
that's really awful.
it didn't, I didn't ever.
Did you ever feel that sense of utter disappointment and the sense of it's almost like you're inducing trauma in yourself from that moment when you were like praying that this thing would go away and then it wouldn't?
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know if I've ever told you this, and I'm going to share this story. It's about our roommate, actually.
Oh yeah.
Our roommate is actually, he was practically in a cult,
Yeah.
a Christian cult, for a very, 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 very long time. And it was a cult to where you weren't allowed to masturbate, like all these things, and like they put a lot of different weird things on sex. And he was so devout. Oh my God, he was devout.
Yeah.
And what happened to where he lost his religion forever? And I do mean forever, people. This is such an insane story. He was in love with a girl, and he just couldn't stop being in love with this girl. And so he finally got the courage after many, 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 many years to finally tell her, because they were always such close friends. She was also a part of that cult for a very long time as well. And he expressed his feelings for her, and she didn't reciprocate. And that obviously was heartbreaking, but you know, he's a normal person, so when a man gets his heart broken, he does leave her alone. And then what he did is he continually prayed to be able to deal with the feelings, like to the guidebook stuff. I need you to help me through the sadness and the heartbreak. Like, why can't I get rid of these feelings? And prayed so hard and often for an answer, just critically, and never got it. And that's actually, I still have the text messages saved. That's actually when he lost his religion.
Yeah.
Like completely, listeners, completely. It was because he's like, if I am this devout and I've done all of these things, and even though it's not about him, he was basically saying, I've tried to be the best that I can, but I couldn't, you couldn't help me through this, and so that means you must not be real.
Yeah. Yeah. Damn. I mean, yeah, I think that's, I think when you're trying to like speak out into the universe and you're not feeling like you're being listened to or heard and things are just kind of getting harder, it's a pretty easy way to lose your religion and to lose your faith.
Absolutely.
I have noticed though, here's the hippy dippy stuff, the weird stuff. I have noticed that I have started seeing responses back when I've manifested good things for me. Like I've seen little synchronicities, like numbers. And I'll look up what that number means. And I don't know if, you know, if all the information on like angel numbers and stuff is just someone blowing smoke up my ass. But a lot of the time, it's things that are in line with how my life is going. And same with like doing a tarot reading. Like I normally, I won't pull any super negative cards when I'm, you know, in a good mindset or when I'm in a good space. I also think tarot is more of a suggestion. You can read into it more than you want to, and you can, you know, it can determine the course of your future, or it could be like a nice suggestion on what you need to do to move forward. So
And even with astrology,
astrology too.
Astrology is actually this is so beautiful. Bill Nye brought on an astrologer and tried to make the guy sound like he's crazy.
Yeah.
And the guy looked at Bill Nye and said, astrology isn't going to tell, because Bill Nye's like, yeah, well, if my moon is in this, I'm going to do this. And the guy was like, no. He's like, astrology is a story, and you can choose to follow the path of that story, or you can go in a different direction.
That's exactly how I feel about tarot too. Yeah, and astrology. I mean, both of them are kind of one and the same. But do you realize too that your chart changes on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah.
Like the planets are ever changing.
Right.
And like so you're constantly going through different cycles. And in order to have like an understanding of what that would mean for every person on a day, you'd have to be like a genius. But yeah, it's exactly that. It's a story, and there can be catastrophic events that happen, but I feel like the more you feed into them, the more they're likely to happen. And especially if like for instance, if I were to pull the Tower card, I do a daily card pull from my tarot deck just to see what the next day is going to bring for me and to familiarize myself with the deck. If I were to pull the Tower card tomorrow, I could feed into that and be like, oh my gosh, everything in my life is going to fall apart. Everything is going to be, in shambles tomorrow. Like there's going to be some catastrophic event that flips my life on the head and it's going to be awful. And that could very well happen. There could be more than one thing that happens. But if I take it as a suggestion to look at it in a positive light and be like, okay, so this is an opportunity for me to kind of maybe rebuild some things, get rid of some old habits and move forward and kind of build myself up from the spot that I'm in. It doesn't always have to have, I guess, when it comes to spirituality and when it comes to astrology, like things that might seem negative don't have to always be inherently negative. It's kind of what you make it.
Yeah, I agree. But actually, just to literally go against what I just said. So I used to be pretty into tarot. I have the very traditional deck, the whatever.
Yes, the yellow one.
Yeah, the yellow deck. Yeah. Everybody knows what they're like,
Yes.
oh, yeah. That. Anyway, anytime, and by the way, I have not lost that deck, which is so interesting.
Yeah.
It just keeps appearing in my life. I do believe in signs. I am that person. I don't know what that necessarily means for me as someone who's agnostic, but every time I would do a tarot reading for my last relationship, I would always pull the Tower card for our future. Always. I always pulled it. And I would literally
That's
jump
the universe telling you.
Oh, the universe. There were so many. The universe was like, oh, this bitch is just dumb.
like I'm trying to give her signs, but
our friend Seth in Grand Junction, 2 weeks before, not 2 weeks, I think it was like a month before the big end fight, he was reading my palm and he said, I don't think that my ex was in your future. I don't know why. He's like, that's what I'm seeing here. And I was like, no, it's like, and so, I mean, like, even from a palm reader to every tarot deck to all the friend advice in the world, even my religious friends and like everything were just like, this is not gonna work, honey.
No. Isn't it crazy how much we ignore like the blatant like
it was incredibly blatant.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how you can misread the Tower card that many times.
See, I mean, sometimes here's me going back on it too. Like sometimes it's just a suggestion and sometimes it's the universe telling you like, get the fucking hint.
Like I can't give you any more signs that it's wrong for you.
I've been pulling like one of these cups cards recently a lot, and it's like you're gonna have to be making some decisions. You're gonna have to be making some decisions. You're entering a new phase in your life. Meanwhile, this new phase, I keep getting these new phase readings, not only just from tarot but also for astrology. And I'm starting a new job, here in the next week. I've been interviewing for like new positions. My life is going to be looking drastically different in the next week from what it's looked like in the past year,
Absolutely.
So it is a new phase, and I was kind of paying attention to that and being like, okay, yeah, there's going to be some changes coming. I could look forward to that, but now it's all happening, and it's like, yeah, it did kind of align, and I don't believe in coincidences.
Yeah, and actually, the reason I don't actually play with tarot anymore is because of that. Because of the thing is, I'd rather just deal with the negative crap when it happens. I don't need, and the universe is like, well, what do you want from me?
Sometimes knowledge isn't power. Knowledge can taint things.
Yeah, knowledge can taint things really bad.
Yeah.
But in that case, there was a lot of signs.
Yeah.
So my thing is so to go back to the earlier part of the episode, like now that I have such a strong love in my life, I would like to know a little bit more about our future, of course. But I don't want to know if it's going to go negative. I kind of just want to be surprised by all the great things that may happen in our life, and then just deal with those really shitty things when they inevitably come, because we're human creatures and our bodies fail.
I got you, girl. I'll just do readings for you and I'll know all the
God.
answers.
No. And then for any organized religion, it's just not for me.
Yeah.
I did come to a decision, and on my own, that I've been meaning to say this entire episode, which is something I don't even think I've ever told you. Maybe the reason I can't get behind. Well, now I've told you why I can't get behind tarot, because it scared me, because it was accurate. The reason I couldn't get behind Christianity is because even in those conversations with Ray, I could never get past the fact that so many people believed that homosexuality was wrong in the Christian religion. So much so that every time I tried to go back to church, I felt guilty. And even if, because I know listeners, if they're listening to this or if we ever blow up, they're going to be like, no, like if you came to my church, like even our pastor's gay, blah, 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 like stuff like that. Or like, this is a queer church or whatever. Even when I'm there around people with the same labels that I am, my soul feels guilty.
Yeah.
And I know that people are like, no, that's trauma. That'll go away. You have to process through that. But it's really difficult because I feel like that religion says homosexuality is wrong, so much so that it's ingrained to my being, and I feel uncomfortable from the second I walk into a church to the second I leave.
Yeah, I get that completely, because Pentecostal is a branch off of, it's a form of Christianity, a very extreme, archaic form, but a form of it nonetheless. And so I almost felt basically the same way that religious or Christian people feel about gay people. I felt the same way about religious and Christian people, that all of them were that way. All of them were extremely judgmental. And if people were happy about like their relationship with Jesus, then I'm like, oh, they're probably just a fucking bigot in disguise then. Like I had a negative feeling towards people who had a positive relationship with spirituality when I was going through it. Yeah. Like I would say all the way up until like mid-20s. Like I was hateful about it. I was angry about it because it hurt me so much, because people had weaponized it against me so much that it was like, I just didn't really feel like, I felt like if there were good Christian people that actually like loved me and would accept me for me, then it was coming from a place of a phoniness. It was coming from a way to kind of like placate me.
Wow.
But yeah, I wouldn't say until like recently I've gotten much more positive feelings about Jesus and Christianity since I've kind of delved into my own spirituality.
Oh, that's interesting. So let's get into it just a little bit more.
Yeah.
So so we've talked about a lot of the stuff before, the kind of today.
Yeah.
So why did you get more open to it? What was your signifying factor, or the change that started the progression?
I mean, there were multiple things. I think a lot of it was moving away from the area where I kind of got sick from it. I think moving away was a huge thing.
Interesting.
Because it was so focused around how like I grew up, like that, being in that church. Like I don't think my family and a lot of the people that grew up with me fully understand how much that traumatized me.
Wow.
Because I had cousins that would like come up during Bible study and during like church service and condemn me, my sister, and my parents, like at the as a sermon, they would come up and do that, and we were just, because we were kids, we were expected not to get it. But I remember all those words. I remember the hateful things that the family would say about my parents because they didn't attend the church regularly, and how I was doomed for hell already as a kid. So, what was the point in trying to, later in life be good? But yeah, moving away was a big part of it. And then also realizing your mortality. I think the older you get.
Oh, you did mention that.
Yeah.
To me like several months ago.
Yeah, the older you get, the more you kind of come close to the fact that, death is inevitable. Like,
yeah.
As dark as this sounds right now, but the more you kind of like embrace that, the more you want to know about this life and know about why we're here and our purpose. And so I started meditating a lot more. I think, especially over quarantine, I started taking a lot of time for myself. You know, I isolate myself a lot, and I take a lot of time to kind of like take things in. And that's been super important for me because I'm able to process things better.
You just reminded me, and because I'm just going to let my listeners know this is right now, is one of the signs that I did get quite frequently. And I just got it again yesterday, and so I probably should listen to it.
Yeah.
I told you this about a lot of people close to me having a friend who died of just alcoholism in some capacity, or just alcohol, and even our friend got into a car accident recently that wasn't completely alcohol related, but like somewhat, I guess, to a degree.
Yeah.
And like, I think the universe is like really trying to drive that point home a little bit. Like,
you need to slow down on your drinking.
Yeah, because they like the conversation I had with a member of my family was like, all of these people have died or had like alcohol related things, and they died. And I was like, wait, how old are you? And she's like, oh, I'm 35.
Yeah.
And I'm 34 right now.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh. So
Yeah.
that's maybe gonna catch up to her a little bit sooner rather than later. Actually, my doctor ordered me some labs. Just combine that whole sentence. And actually, I can go in anytime because she's like, I need to check your liver. So when I get those labs done, we'll just see where she's at, and that might change. I mean, drinking has not hurt me yet. I've always been able to respect my limits, but it could have done damage to my body long term.
Yeah.
So maybe that is a sign, because I do believe in signs. Maybe that's the one thing I do believe in signs.
So would you say then you like the label? I know you kind of said it earlier, but you would give yourself the label agnostic fully now where you're
absolutely.
at.
Yeah, and I don't mean to derail, because I actually had a couple more questions about your journey. So we got there because you moved, and like news in your life made you like really understand your mortality, and like going forward with that. So how did you choose which like paths we're going to follow? Because like right now you're super into astrology.
Yeah.
You talked about the angel numbers.
Yeah. For me, it's kind of like an any and all thing. It's kind of how my energy, it's kind of how like my, how I express my gender. Like for real, refer to me any and all pronouns. I think there's multiple things that we can adopt. I feel weird adopting another culture's religion, you know, because like I'm white, and like I don't need to be doing any more cultural appropriation and problematic shit, you know. I don't need to be doing that. So, I mean, which is essentially what Ram Dass did, even though I just quoted him early in the episode. You know, he was some white dude that went off to India and studied under a guru, and then brought back, you know, these traditions. And, you know, he's gotten a lot of flack for that. So I didn't want to like be like, oh, I'm Buddhist now, or I'm you know,
no, absolutely,
anything like that, or I practice Hinduism. I wanted to kind of like look into, like know that a lot of New Age spirituality is rooted in Hinduism and Buddhism and in these different practices, but kind of just accept what works for me, you know. Meditation and kind of connecting to the source has been incredibly important for me. So I'd say I'm spiritual. I think that's the best way to label myself. I don't want to give myself like a specific religion, because I think I do have some issues, I guess, with the term religion and what it means.
Yeah, well, it's been used to harm queer people in so many aspects. So as we've said in about 1,000 different ways this episode.
Yeah.
Well, and even so, like, I don't meditate. I can never be still enough to do it. I've tried, and maybe listeners, maybe comment below and on our website at www.agemofasecretpodcast.com. I have literally, when it comes to meditating, always felt more bothered after it, I guess. Like I feel... oh gosh, it's really hard to describe. It's like I feel uncomfortable afterwards. I feel a little bit silly. I feel like I didn't gain what I was. I feel like a failure. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. Because after I'm done meditating, I don't feel like I've gained anything. And people say that meditation is supposed to give you a sense of something, whether it's like physical stillness or clearing your head or thoughts or connecting with the earth or all these things. I get zero of that from meditating, so I always feel like a failure right after.
It takes a lot of a lot of practice, and I'm just finally getting to the point where I can like quiet down my ego a bit. Like even still though, like my ego is going on about a situation that happened 2 weeks ago in my head, or it's it's like it's super important. Like remember when we were watching the Midnight Gospel and the mom was talking about presence,
Oh,
how
yeah.
you feel the feeling in front of you in your hand, and kind of what does that feel like for you to focus on that feeling, on that energy that's inside your hand.
Right.
What I've noticed is like the more I isolate my meditation through different parts of my body, the more I'm able to kind of experience this energy that we're supposed to be experiencing. But yeah, beforehand for me it was impossible for me to meditate, and it's still a struggle. I still don't do it regularly enough. Like I should meditate a lot more than I do. But
Yeah, that kind of makes sense because, and actually in that episode of Midnight Gospel, I use it as a trauma response, not a trauma response, a trauma helper, whatever they're called.
yeah,
So for you listeners, like, so I don't have chronic pain, but I do live with depression, and it's not as bad as it used to be ever since I moved, like nowhere near as bad. And being in a happy, healthy relationship has also almost all but solved most of my depression. So, but when I do have those moments, I count backwards from 100 by threes. It's something to deal with chronic pain. And then also that episode of Midnight Gospel that Donna talked about, I think the mom said, feel your hand from the inside or something like that.
Yeah,
Is what it is. So, and if you focus on that, it does the same thing of like counting backwards from 100 by threes. It's like trying to trick your brain a little bit,
Yeah.
and you can focus and be in another state. Like the same concept of like if the tree falls in the forest and no one's around to hear it, doesn't make a sound. It's supposed to help you calm down a little bit and get out of your head, like, fight back your ego,
Yeah.
and understand who you are. And it's weird because I would love to attribute some of my success in life just in general to like some sort of spirituality, or religion. Like I've had a lot of great recently, like a lot of great. And I'd like to think that there's purpose behind it. Oh gosh, we haven't even talked about purpose this episode.
There is. I mean, it's karmic.
Yeah.
I think it's karmic. I think the decisions that you've made in your life have led you to here. So
Yeah.
if there's a lot of great that's been going on in your life, it's because you've done a lot of great things to get where you're at.
Yeah, like even during 2020, like I like to say this as a sign, because maybe in my religion it's just signs. My air conditioner showed up with an ionizer, and I didn't realize it had one, the day that the wildfires was getting so toxic in our house that everything was orange. And it showed up that day to where I could turn it on and clean the air so we could sleep at night. Like it just... like stuff like that. Like I believe in those kind of signs.
If next time you have a gut feeling sign like that, will you let me know? And I'll let you know next time I have one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I would like to follow that a bit more. I feel like those gut feeling moments. So here's, before we end the episode, because we're kind of getting towards the end, let me just dump this really crazy concept on you that
Sure.
I learned from TikTok. Basically, this girl's saying like anytime you get a gut feeling, it's your future self reminding you or letting you know about what's going to happen in that moment. That basically we exist on multiple planes and multiple like realities. Time's not linear. It's your future self trying to let you know that this moment is not good, or it's giving you that gut feeling that this is kind of the decision that you need to make. So anytime you get a gut feeling, it's basically like a version of yourself trying to steer you in the right direction.
Oh, I want to
Isn't that
unpack
weird?
That is so weird. I guess I could see that. I used to, as a kid, always wish that I could go back in time or receive a message from myself in the future to let me know if the decisions I made were accurate. Because I don't remember all of them. I just remember a pinnacle one, as I do.
Yeah.
Actually, there's two that I remember. In high school, I was offered to be part of a rock group. Because it's got like my singing voice and whatever. I never found out what happened to them, but that could have changed my life forever.
Yeah.
And then the other one was and it sucked because nothing in the universe was giving me a good sign. But after I graduated from college, I was about to go back to live in Florida and work for Disney World, which I loved that experience. And already got my acceptance letter. I had my plane tickets ready to go, and I got an email from a friend saying that there might be a networking job opening up in Grand Junction. And at the same time, I also got offered to be a live-in resident assistant at the college. So I had 3 days to decide if I would go to Florida and work for Disney and start my life there, or go back to Grand Junction. I went back to Grand Junction because I wanted to try to get a job specifically in my field. The job didn't pan out. And then literally 4 months later, I had started working at my last job as a database administrator. And on the day that the school told me, they're like, we no longer need you. And so the day before I moved out is when I met my ex-husband.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, I think sometimes things, it's crazy how things align like that.
Yeah.
You know, how you have these multiple paths that you can take. So to add on to that concept too, and every outcome is possible because all you have to do is like tune yourself into that outcome, and it's already existed in another reality. So if there's something that you desire,
I like that.
yeah. So like, you know, getting the feelings towards like going towards that outcome, it's kind of like about tuning yourself into that reality. And that's how people kind of like time travel or time jump into like different realities, is by like tuning themselves into the possibility of wanting this outcome. It's strange. It definitely, like when I saw it on TikTok, it kind of like fucked me up. But it's interesting how there's, you know, so many different paths that we could have taken, and you know, here we are.
Maybe it was always that my ex-husband was supposed to lead me to drag. Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah.
Because I like to think, I was like, maybe I misread the sign is what I was thinking about. And I was like, but maybe I didn't misread the sign.
Yeah.
Maybe I went through all of that. Like, because maybe Adam is a reward for me, because I needed to go through that, follow that sign through to get to drag, which led me to the most amazing experiences of my life thus far.
Yeah.
And then drag also led me to Adam more directly. It put me directly in his path.
It did. It really did.
So maybe that was the point of it all.
Yeah.
And that does give me comfort, actually.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the feeling that people talk about.
I think, like I said, no coincidences. We're here where we are for a reason.
This episode is giving me a lot. And I know we went over, listeners, and I'm so sorry.
Yeah, but we wanted to have this discussion. Like, I learned that Coco was almost a Mormon missionary.
I learned that Donna tried to pray the gay away every night.
Yeah.
Wow, learned a lot about each other. We really shouldn't talk before we do these episodes.
I know.
Thanks for better conversation.
For real.
All right, I guess that brings us to the end of the episode.
Yeah, thank you for listening. There was no interview this week, but you can catch us next week, where I'm sure we will have one ready for you to listen to with a new, interesting queer individual.
And make sure to check out our bonus episodes where we recap a little bit of the RuPaul's Drag Race episodes and give you a blunt and honest opinion about what we feel about people we've never met.
Yeah, exactly. Out every Monday-ish.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like right before midnight on Monday.
That's awesome.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
This has been another episode of A Gem of a Secret podcast. The hosts of A Gem of a Secret podcast are Donatella My Secrets and Coco Jem Holiday. You may follow Donatella My Secrets at Donatella_My Secrets on Instagram. You may follow Coco Jem Holiday at Coco Jem Holiday on Instagram. Original music by Touche Douche and Party Favors. You can follow them respectively at The Touche Douche and at Party Favors Music on Instagram. For more exclusive content, visit www.agemofasecretpodcast.com. That is AJEM of a secret podcast.com. Be sure to tune in every week on Thursday for a new episode wherever you listen to podcasts. If you have any comments or questions, email us at agemofasecretpod@gmail.com. Please don't forget to like, rate, and subscribe. Until next time, goodbye.